We're Cassie,
and Emily.
and this is Book Butts and Chill, a podcast where we talk about books, movies, and pop culture the way that you actually experience them.
This show is for type B readers, people who love stories but don't want the pressure, perfection, or the participation trophies.
Hit follow, grab a drink, and let's talk about it.
I have a controversial opinion.
Oh, no.
I think people are way too generous with 5-star ratings these days.
Okay, wow, we're starting strong.
Okay, but hear me out. Every review you see online right now is like, this book changed my life, 5 stars, 6+, like God tier. And like, literally do not even get me started on adding a 6-star to the rating system.
So true. And then you ask them, like, what happened in the book? And they're like, I don't know, but I loved it.
Yeah, like, it was just vibes. And so this really got me thinking, like, what actually makes a 5-star read?
And apparently we've been thinking about that a lot because somehow we're only halfway through the year in 2026 and already have enough books for a full 5-star episode.
Yeah, I never expected this many 5 stars when the year started. So today we are putting our own ratings to the test. We're talking about what makes a 5-star read and sharing our 5-star books of 2026 so far.
So grab your notes app because by the end of this episode, we're basically building your summer TBR together.
Well, before we start recommending books, I think that we need to establish something very important. What would you say are like maybe like 1 or 2 things that you're absolutely needing in a 5-star?
Ooh, I think so. I really connect to very strong character development. Like,
Okay.
no matter what the genre is, like, I really need to feel connected to either the protagonist or a side character or whatever. So I think that's a huge one.
Okay.
I think the other thing is a very unique plot. Like, I feel like in the genres that we're reading, it can get so rinse and repeat, and there are kind of the consistent like tropes and themes and things like that. But when I read a book where the plot is genuinely so unique, they've done something so completely different in a way that just works, I am like, give it the 5 stars immediately.
100%. I agree with that. Like, if it's a shock to my system, I'm literally like, give it the Academy Award.
100%. And then I think the last piece is the writing style. Like, I think that I very much connect to authors who are able to really infuse really good like dialogue between the characters, where it's like, for example, in romance books where they're not relying on the characters the entire time to overtly be like, I'm in love with you and this is why, you know, like they're using the body language, they're using the environment, they're using all of these things to like really craft the story and make you feel it. And so I think those are probably my 3 big things where I'm like, if you nail those things, it's an easy 5-star for me.
And honestly, those were like high expectations to meet. Like, I feel like a lot of books these days aren't going to meet those. So I am very curious to hear what your 5-star reads have been so far with these high stakes.
I know, and I've had a few, so I'm excited too. Wait, what's yours?
Mine is 100% like the recommendability. Like, I have to like not be shutting up about it for at least like a month afterwards. Like, I will try to convince other people that they should read it, even though it's not their usual book. And then I also agree with the part you said about like the uniqueness. Like, in 2026, I am over copy and paste.
Over. Do you think that you are so connected to the recommendability because you just like to be able to connect with other people on things, or like what do you think the like hang up is there?
I think the hang up is that I have a book podcast and I talk about books on the internet, so I clearly love to recommend books.
Okay.
And so I think
it's
that's
as easy as that.
Something I enjoy about being a reader is like connecting with other people about the books and being like, no, change your mind. You have to read this. And then we have to gush about the characters after together.
Change your mind.
Hence why I'm on the internet.
Yes, no, baby, constantly. Wow, I love that. Okay, see, she's true to herself, and we love that. Okay, so now we need to get into these 5-star reads because I have a lot that I'm really excited to talk about.
And like we said, we're not going to sit here and lecture you on like, this was our favorite read and this is why. We are going to personally recommend these books to you for the perfect moment in your life. So get your pencils, get your paper.
Woo!
Here we
All
go.
right. Okay, so let's start off with one that I feel like everyone needs.
Yeah.
I feel like we're literal matchmakers right now. We're like the reader matchmakers.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you want to become obsessed. Like if you want, like, you know, those books where you're just genuinely such a
Yes.
fangirl and you are so like not just locked into the story, but you're obsessed with the characters. You're maybe looking up fan art. You're no matter what it is, like you are just so locked in. So
You're
did
like,
you have a book?
oh yeah, like
Oh,
staying up until 3 a.m., nauseous because I was so worried about the characters. Like,
nauseous.
so intensely invested that there's a physical and emotional connection to these books.
That's right.
I and this was one that I really did have to like convince people of. And that book is Binding 13 by Chloe
Yep.
Walsh.
Yep. Yep.
I feel like those books at like face value are hard to convince people to read. It's about
I agree.
like high schoolers in trauma in like a country that a lot of like the US listeners aren't like related to. And so like it's a lot of
Yeah.
different things that maybe you as a reader you're not going to like immediately relate to.
Yeah, and for those of you who have not read this book or this series, it follows a group of high schoolers in Ireland, in Cork, Ireland, and they go to a college, but it's really a high school where it's like a rugby focused high school. And a girl, her name is Shannon, falls in love with one of the all-star rugby
Oh, the
players,
All Stars.
Johnny Kavanagh. And there's way more to it than that. That's the kind of the high level spiel. But I'm interested in what you feel like made this so addictive because I was obsessed with these books,
Yeah.
by the way, but I rated it 4 stars and you rated it 5.
I was gonna say, do you want to hear my spiel of how I convinced everybody
The
on the streets
pitch
to read?
on the streets.
It
Yeah, please.
literally gave me so much nostalgia to like being in high school, being in love for the first time, having that crush on someone where you like think you're like, oh my God, I'm gonna marry this person even though I'm 15 and I know nothing about life. And it's just like that
Yeah,
pure naivety that like you don't get anymore as an adult. And like to feel those
right.
butterflies again through like these high schoolers' eyes and like to experience that first time love and the deep friendships and the found family. Like it was just
Yeah.
such an immersive, like almost like flashback to the past that I loved so
Yeah.
much.
I agree. I think what really made it addictive to me was the character development, like what I was
Hmm.
talking about earlier, where like I didn't just feel connected to Shannon or Johnny, like I felt connected to their entire friend group. Like every time one of them was on the page, I was just thrilled to be there, and I was
Yeah.
thrilled to be reading about it.
It was also one of those books where I finished it in like less than 48 hours.
Yeah, I remember telling Emily because I finished it at 11 o'clock that night and immediately started the second book. I was like, I actually can't wait.
Yeah.
And I think I stayed up until like 1 a.m. on a work night.
And I feel like it reminds me of the obsession that people are having about like heated rivalry or off
Yeah,
campus. Like it's a very similar, like you're just like so weirdly invested in these strangers' lives that you have no business being invested in, but it's like do or
0.
die.
Yeah, agreed. And it's just such a unique story. So I feel like if you've been seeing this all over the internet and you're like, is this series worth it or are these books worth it? They actually are.
Yeah.
I too have been shocked.
Yes. I do say read the trigger warnings, but the
Yeah.
emotional damage is worth it. But
Woo!
not everybody is ready for emotional damage and obsession. Some of us just want to like feel a little something outside of the norm and like get a
That's
little
right.
emotional impact from our read. So, Cassie, if somebody came to you and was like, I want to feel something, what is a
Mm.
5-star read for them?
I would give them The Bright Years by Sarah Damoff. So
Oh,
I read this book earlier this year. I had never heard of this author before. I had continued to see this book all over the internet as well, or in my little corner of like the sad book internet that I
sad
know that
lit girl.
Emily does not engage with. That's like solely my little corner. And I kept seeing it and I was like, I feel like that story sounds great. It was incredible. I literally finished this book in one single day. I started it in the morning, finished it that night. It was
Insane.
that good. So it's a book that follows basically the three generations of people in one single family. And it deals with alcohol abuse, it deals with divorce, it deals with second chances, it deals with all of these things that are on the surface are very heavy themes, but the way that
Yeah.
Sarah navigates them is just so beautiful, and you feel so connected to these characters that by the end you're just like, oh my God, like I can't believe that's over. I felt like I was literally like mourning the loss of this story when it was over. And that is I felt every possible emotion probably, but like that's kind of the biggest emotion that I felt by the end. Like it was just such a beautiful story.
Was it 3 POVs or 3 timelines? Like, how did they do, like, the
Yeah.
multi-generational thing?
So you follow the woman who falls in love with a man and they get married and then they go through many trials and tribulations, but they have a daughter. And so you basically get into the POV of all three of them at some point in the book.
Okay.
The majority of the book is through the POV of the woman. But you get the POV of the man as well, and then you get the POV of the daughter towards the end too. And it's like truly like decades spanning, like you're following them like throughout their
Like, they
lives.
age.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
That
it's
is very unique.
yeah, it was a very, very unique story. And again, like there's very heavy themes in here, but it's perfectly done. And it's a really short read. Like again, I read it in one single day and no problem. It's under 300 pages. I just checked to verify. And I literally have so many dog-eared pages in here. It's unbelievable because of how many quotes were just like literally staying and sinking in my heart.
That is kind of
Which
crazy, though. You don't often, like, read books where you get to see, like, what happens to the character from, like, a younger
yeah,
year to an older year. Like, I feel like so
yeah.
often we're left wondering, like, oh, I wonder what happens when they're, like, retired together.
Yeah, no, you get the full scope within again under 300 pages. So like that's the other
Wow.
thing is like I think a lot of times when you read these like multi-decade stories or whatever, like it takes a while to build and to get them through that, and she does a really good job of like keeping the pacing throughout the book.
This
And
was
there's a
a
twist that you don't see coming.
oh, a
Nope,
twist! Didn't
a
expect that.
twist. So I think if you were trying to feel anything, honestly, this is a great book to pull those things out.
I definitely added it to my TBR. I'm not a sad
Oh,
lit fic girly, so I gotta be in the
oh,
right mood when I read it, but I
that's right.
definitely added it.
We're gonna get her. If anyone's out there in
Get
my
her!
corner, we're gonna get her. Don't worry. Okay, so I feel like our next one is particularly resonant with you because you have talked about the fact that you've been in and out of reading slumps this year in
So many.
particular. So many. So what would you say if someone's in a reading slump, they need a slump buster? What would you say?
Yes. And I feel very confident in this answer because a lot of my reading slumps this year have come from like fantasy books. And
Yeah.
so always think like, oh, you're in a fantasy slump. You should like switch to like romance or historical fiction.
Yeah.
But this other fantasy book is actually my slump buster, and it is Daggermouth by H.M. Wolfe,
Whoa.
which
Okay, I
I
have a
never
question.
expected. Yeah.
Isn't it a dystopian?
It's fantasy though.
I think it's just dystopian because there's
It's
no like magic in there.
It's not dystopian fantasy? I think it is. It's a
No,
fantastical world that doesn't exist.
it's a dystopian romance.
I don't think that fantasy has to have magic in it.
There's no fantasy elements of it though.
It's
It's
a
like
world that doesn't exist.
but
It's like
that
not
can be
Earth.
dystopian. That it is Earth. They're
It is
not
not
on
Earth.
Mars. Yes, it is. It's in a literal city.
Okay, look it up. Is it dystopian? Is it not fantasy?
It's literally dystopian.
Okay, dystopian
Dystopian
romance.
fiction.
Guys, to be a reader these days, you have to be so sophisticated and knowledgeable in your genres. And I'm sorry, to me, these people, let me tell you, live in a world of factions that are in separate circles, and some of them have to exclusively wear masks. And
Okay, did you read The Hunger Games?
I would call
I
that
know you
fantasy
did.
as well. I would also
What?
call that fantasy. Again, burn me at the stake. Start the witch trials again. I don't care.
Get her out of
This
here.
genre
Get her
world
out.
is absolutely crazy. So sorry, guys. Dystopian romance broke my reading slump.
I just had to distinguish that because people will look it up and be like, oh, I want a fantasy book. And then they're going to read it and be like, this is a dystopian book.
Okay, it's fair. I needed you to tell the audience the correct thing, but it's just so crazy out here these days. Anyways, so they live in this world of factions. There are these like outside circles where there's like the poor people, and then the inside circles where there's like elite people. And there are these groups of like mercenaries that are basically trying to take down the inner circles. But
That's right.
there's like spies that are maybe in the inner circle but helping the outside circle. There's romance
Yeah.
blooming outside of the factions that they should be in. And it is a wild ride. It is a true enemies to lovers in a almost scary way.
In a
And
great way.
the twists throughout this book, my jaw were on the ground.
Yes. Why do you think that it's a slump buster?
Because it was such a shock to the system. Like, oh my
Yeah.
God, like I hadn't read something like this in so long. And I was just like, this is so different and refreshing. And the true enemies to lovers, it felt very like, oh, she's not scared to go there. And
Right. Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
it was just a shock to the senses.
That makes sense. So I actually also rated this one 5 stars, but I have seen some like disparate thoughts on this on the internet, which I've found very interesting.
What are they
I
saying?
do I think that people are mainly critiquing the romance. They're not just critiquing the like dystopian plot or anything like that, because I think everyone can agree that it's incredibly unique and a shock to the system. However, I think that the romance in this makes this very accessible and like would make this a slump buster, because I think a lot of times dystopian can be intimidating for people because they're like, if I'm in a slump, I don't want to think. Like, I don't want
Yeah.
like heavy feelings. Like, I don't want like whatever. And I think a lot of times that's what you're getting from the genre. And so I think the romance like kind of balances some of that out, where you're very clearly reading about themes that are very relevant today and are very top of mind. However, you also have a very hot enemies to lovers situation going on, and you also potentially have a love triangle, and then you also have these like side characters who have a love
Side
story
love
where you're like,
quests.
oh my God. And so there's a lot there that makes this a fun read that you don't want to put down versus something that you're like, okay, like I'm into this, it's action packed, I'm thinking about a lot, but also, oh, I didn't need to like feel heavy like this.
Yeah, I think that I just also unlocked something else that's in all of my 5-star reads.
Oh,
An ensemble cast. Because to your
yeah.
point, there's like this love triangle, there's this side character romance going on. Like you get really into all of the side characters in this book as
Yeah.
well. And all the different POVs. And it's just like so immersive from all sides.
Very immersive. This author, H.M. Wolfe, is brilliant. I am actually going to see her live next month, and I'm so excited. But I think that something that she does with her writing is like, she is such a good storyteller. Like, I feel like you almost feel like you're sitting around a campfire, like listening to someone tell this like ghost story
Ooh,
or this like
yeah.
cautionary tale where you're just enthralled the entire time. Like,
Yeah.
that is how I felt reading. Yeah.
I agree.
That is how I
Tell me more.
Wow, am I this storyteller also? But yeah, I think that's what makes this book really feel like something that anyone could pick up and be like, "Oh, I want to keep reading after this," because it just like doesn't feel like homework. It feels like you just listened or like read this story where you're like, "Oh, wow, 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 wow,
Yeah.
wow."
And it does end on a cliffhanger. There's only one book out right now, but like something
Yeah,
about that makes it feel more accessible to be like get you out of a reading slump too, because you're not like
yeah,
signing up for a 3-book series that's gonna like take up
right.
the rest of your month.
I actually think the second book comes out in November of this year,
I
maybe?
think it got pushed back to 2027.
Oh no, I didn't
Yeah,
know.
I think that because
Oh,
she was self-published for Daggermouth, and
right.
this next one is actually under a publishing house, and so I think
Oh,
they
you're
pushed
right.
it back.
You're right. Next July?
It's a long one.
No!
Maybe ask her about that when you see her.
Should I corner her?
Yeah, ask her for an advance copy.
Perfect. Oh my god. That's a great pick, though. I like that one.
Okay, so I thought that was a fantasy book. Obviously, it's not, but I was like really surprised that that one stuck with me after I'd been in my like romantasy ick because I did
Mm,
closely relate it to romantasy.
that's
So
fair.
there was like a moment where I was like, I need to stop reading romantasy, and you have a really good 5-star pick for me to get me out of my
Yeah,
romantasy slump.
that's right. And it's called One Golden Summer by Carly Fortune. So I literally just started my Carly Fortune journey actually last week. Like,
Yes.
it's very recent. I started with Every Summer After because the show is coming out. It has come out on
Yeah.
Prime Video every year after. And so I was like, okay, I
Wait, the
am
book
very,
is called different than the show?
yes, because the show is going to take you through Every Summer After and One Golden Summer.
Oh, so you have
So
to
I think
read
that's
every
why
summer
they
after before One Golden Summer.
You should. You technically don't need to because there's like enough context in this book to kind of understand, but I do think that you should because it makes this book so much better. And they're easy reads. I literally got through both of them in like 4 days. But I do think that this is a really good romantasy slump buster, if we want to call
Busta.
it, because buster, romantasy slump buster,
Busta.
buster. It is because the man in this book is the most like Cassian coded man that I
What?
have read in contemporary. I knew this was gonna get you.
What?
What?
I'm
She's
in
been busted.
shock. I'm
She's
what?
immediately
I'm
busted.
busted. I'm flabbergasted. Okay, sorry. Continue. I mean, I like my heart is racing. Okay,
Oh, my heart is racing.
keep going.
So I keep going.
Tell me more.
So basically, this book follows the FMC. Her name is Alice. She's a photographer who lives in Toronto. So all of Carly Fortune's books are set in places in Canada, which I
Okay.
also really liked because I know nothing about Canada
Yeah.
geography, Canadian geography. I know like 3 places, and that's it. So this woman, Alice, she lives in Toronto. She's a photographer. She is burnt out, and she's very close with her grandma who needs a hip surgery. And so the grandma gets a hip surgery, and she's like, we both need a refresh. Let's go to the lake. And so they go to this lake that she had been to one summer, who the MMC Charlie grew up in. And so this is a continuation of the first book because the first book is set at this lake where the FMC Percy goes to this lake every summer
Okay.
and meets these 2 boys who grow up there. And she falls in love with one of the brothers, and the other brother is what this book focuses in on.
Okay.
So I think that this is a great buster because I think romantasy readers, what we really appreciate is really beyond obviously the world building and the fantasy elements and things like that, like the actual romance piece. I think that we really appreciate like great banter, and we really
Mm,
appreciate a man who is willing to go there and is
the
willing to
distance.
like he's willing to go the distance. He's Hercules. He is willing to put his feelings out there like fairly immediately, but we know that there's a lot under the surface. We know that he's complicated, and we know that it's complicated between the 2. And the or the FMC Alice is very strong. She's very strong-headed, but she's not like, the overly stubborn FMC or whatever. She's like one that can be very relatable. And so I do think that this is just like such a good story that any romantasy reader would like immediately grab onto and be like, I am obsessed with this.
And one of your 5-star read criteria is like you have to be into the character development and like be able to
That's
connect
right.
to the characters. And it sounds like this was one of those.
That is exactly right. And I think, some of we all have a lot of vanity as romantasy readers. Let's be real.
Okay.
We love a man with big muscles who is 6'5", impossibly strong, gorgeous, talented, all of the things. And
Is
that is
that
literally Charlie Florek.
In a real human being that exists in a non-fantasy world.
Correct.
Wow.
So
I
I'm
would
just
love
saying.
to see what the fan casts are for Charlie.
Oh, wow. I haven't even looked because the show has come out at this point and they already have a Charlie, but
Okay, but like so what the first book is called Every Summer After, correct?
Correct.
Is that a different age than that they are in One Golden Summer?
Yes. So Every Summer After is like a true like it's a time jump. So you see them as they're like growing up and as they're kind of like becoming best friends and falling in love. But then it's set in present day when they're like in their early 30s basically, and they are rekindling their romance. It's a second chance romance. But One Golden Summer, which is what I really liked about this book, is they're in their 30s. Like the FMC is 33 and Charlie's 35. And I loved that because I feel like the first book, it really gave you like the nostalgia that you were talking about with Binding 13.
Yeah.
But One Golden Summer, I was like, oh, I am actually swooning from page 1 to the end of this book.
Page
Genuinely.
1 to the end.
Page 1. After reading this book, I was like, my book boyfriend rankings have been obliterated. Obliterated.
That's what I call a 5-star read. I'm sold, but I kind of like don't want to read the first one.
You have to. You have no other option. Sorry.
I've only read one Carly Fortune book, and it's called Our Perfect Storm, and I cannot recommend it to anybody on the streets. It is not going to make my end of year 5-star read count.
No, Every Summer After is better than Our Perfect Storm. I have to say that.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so before we get into kind of like a laundry list of all the 5-star reads you've given out this year, let's give the readers like that one 5-star book we've read so far this year that is the book to recommend, number 1 at the top of their TBR list.
Drum roll, please. Into the Blue by Emma Brody.
Amazing.
Oh my God. This book is everything to me.
Yes.
If I think about that book that I said earlier that like sticks with you, I read this all on Kindle and then I finished and then the next day went and bought the physical copy because I was like,
100%.
I know that I need to reread this like on a paper.
Yes.
This book is everything. And I was not surprised that I gave it 5 stars personally because I love like this book felt like a blend between a contemporary romance and a literary fiction. So all of my favorite things.
Yeah.
But what I was surprised by was that Emily gave it 5 stars.
Yeah, it has a little bit of everything, guys. Like literally what we've talked about this whole episode, it has the time jumps. You see them from when they're younger to adulthood. It has an ensemble cast. It gives you the nostalgia of when they were younger and like falling in love for the first time. So it truly checked every box for me.
Yeah, and I think the only additions that I would have to that is that this plot was completely unique. Like
So
genuinely,
unique.
I have not read something you know how when you are trying to recommend a book, you're like, oh, it's like this book and this book had a baby. Like it's not. I literally cannot say that about this book. Like it is wholly itself. It's wholly unique, and I loved that so much. And then her writing is so unbelievable. It blew my mind. She's not I wouldn't call her writing style lyrical because sometimes I feel like that gets a bad rap and it's not necessarily approachable. but her writing was so immersive. Like, I feel like I would compare it to what we were just saying about H.M. Wolfe, where, like,
Yeah.
truly you feel like you're leaning in and you're like, "Oh my god, the way that she is describing these things, I can feel it in my bones and I can feel it in my soul." And
Yes.
that to me is what made this unbelievable. And for those of you who have not read this book, so it follows two people, Noah and AJ,
Mhm.
and you start out with them as teenagers. They live in this area in Massachusetts, and they grow up in very different scenarios. Where AJ grows up in this big dysfunctional family, and Noah grows up as a solo child who grows up with his like great aunt essentially,
Famous.
and he's famous. He comes from a long line of very, very successful actors, and he's essentially like trying to like not lean into his namesake. And him and AJ become fast friends, and they end up forging this like incredibly special bond with each other through improv acting.
So
You
wild.
you essentially follow their friendship over multiple decades that obviously ends up turning into more. And I won't say anything past that, but it's just so unique and the elements in it. You have like some random sci-fi elements because they like are huge fans and Noah's family had starred in the show that like I don't even know how to describe it.
It was like
It
if you were
honestly felt
watching Star Trek, kind of.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost like a Star Trek, and they end up, like, doing a reboot of it, so there's elements of that, but then you also have elements of, like, she becomes a writer for SNL, and so I really loved that aspect of it because I'm a huge SNL fan, and
Mhm.
they're in New York, so there's just a lot going on here that just worked so well.
And it's so random when you hear it described like that, but
Yeah,
that randomness was, like, so fun, it really kept your attention, and I think that's
agreed.
kind of like what you're saying about, like, the immersive, like, lyrical, in quotes, writing, is,
Yeah,
like, because it was from this view of, like, being on SNL, being in a TV show, going to
right,
Comic-Con, like, you almost
right.
felt like you were watching a show.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, like we were just talking about good slump busters for romantasy readers. Like I actually think this is a book that any romantasy reader would eat up
Yeah.
because even the way that she describes their bond with each other, like genuinely, I've never read that in a contemporary romance before. Like the only other place I've read something like this was in a romantasy book
Like,
where
with
like you
mate
have like a
bonds.
mate bond. Yes. And so I had to look it up because I was like, "Is this real? Does this happen?"
Yes, it
So and
is,
it
we
does.
literal yes, it was so crazy, yeah, I just, like, spent so much time discussing this book with our book club, I spent so
Yeah.
much time Googling things, I was talking
Yes.
to, like, people at on vacations, people on work like, work conferences, like, I'm telling everybody about this book, and I'm like, "Just give it a chance," and everybody that
Just
does loves
try it.
it.
I totally agree. I totally agree. And it's pretty long. So that's the other thing. Like normally
Yeah.
when I read cuz this is branded as a contemporary romance. So anything above 300 pages for me in that genre, I'm like, what are you doing? This is almost 500 pages. So, it was worth it.
The
It
audiobook
was
is really
so
good,
worth
though.
it. Oh, yeah, that's true. That was very good. And duet narration. What do you
Yep.
know?
Love it.
Very good. Ah,
So
beautiful.
that is an amazing recommendation that everybody needs to shoot to the top of their TBR, along with
That's
everything else
right.
we've mentioned. But Cassie, like I said, had quite a few other 5-star reads. So can we get a little rapid fire list to add to our TBR?
Let's do it. Okay, first one, The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. Oh my god, that book was
I
unbelievable.
really want to read that.
I'm sure you've seen it all over the internet, people telling you to read it. I really think that you should. It's an epistolary novel, which means that you are only reading like her letters, emails, things like that. Like you're not in her head, you're not whatever. And so that in and of itself is a very, very unique premise that you're not really getting otherwise. But the main character is just so interesting. And the things that she's talking about, the people that she's reaching out to, the things that she's going through in her life in those moments are just very, very. I don't know. It's one of those things similar to the Bright Years where it like really makes you think about things and reflect on
Reflective.
things that
Yeah.
you wouldn't normally. And so that book was fantastic, and I would recommend that to a lot of people.
I will be
That
reading as soon as I get off my 16-week Libby hold.
yeah. You actually have multiple times. It's showed up on our Libby, and I think the hold has been suspended at this
Oh,
point.
shit. Okay, next.
Oh, shit. Next is Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross. Emily was really thrown by this one.
Yes, I did not want to agree with it. I haven't read it, so I can't disagree, but I am
No.
struggling to agree.
Oh, it was so good. It was brilliant, honestly. So this is the prequel to Divine Rivals, which Emily did not like. A lot of people have different opinions on it.
Yes.
And it is a romantasy book, but it was one of those things where so it follows a goddess who like literally from when she's born to like centuries later essentially, and she as she gets older ends up well actually as a young goddess meets this boy, a human man, he's a boy at the time, and they end up like forging this relationship like through dreams essentially. And so
Ooh.
you follow their relationship over time, how it grows, how it develops, and it's just so beautiful. And like the story itself was very, very unique, and it was very, I would say, if you struggle with like lyrical poetic writing, this would be tough for you, to be honest. And it's a really long book, so that's the other piece. But I just ate it up. I thought that it was something that like just stuck with me and was, as we've talked about, like the rinse and repeat of
Yeah.
romantasy was completely different from anything that I've read in the genre in a really long time.
Which we did come up with a theory when you first read Wild Reverence that if you read Wild Reverence before Divine Rivals
Yeah.
and whatever the second book is that I didn't even bother to look up, then you might actually like the Divine Rivals and the other book better.
Right. Yeah, true.
And
True.
we had one of our listeners do that after they heard that recommendation, and they said they would have to agree.
Wow. We
Yes.
have a testimonial here.
Yes.
What do you know? All right. And then my last one is The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. This is my first book that I've read by this author. Emily read Starling House. When did you read that, last year?
I read Starling House in 2024 during Halloween. Highly recommend. Great time to read that book.
Wow. Okay. Halloween, Hallows Eve. I did not read this then. I read this in the dead of winter in January.
No.
I was enthralled by this book, genuinely. Like, it was one of those, it's similar, again, where I was like, wow, I haven't felt this way since I read The Night and the Moth, where this is such a unbelievably unique premise, world, characters, even the romance, like just completely flipped all of our kind of gender norm standards on its head. And I loved that. And I also love a lady night. So it follows,
Yes.
this is also like a decade's kind of, well, it's more time jumping than anything.
Yes.
But it follows a man, I cannot remember his name off the top of my head. It follows a man who he basically like discovers this like very life-altering secret about the world that he lives in and about the power system that he's living in. And he is currently in like World War I time, and he ends up getting thrown to the past and meets this literal like legend throughout history. She's a lady knight, and they end up falling in love. And it basically follows them unraveling all of these secrets, all of these untruths that have been told over time. And it makes you ask a lot of questions about the stories that we read and the history that we know, and how much of it is coming from stories that have been passed down from people that we don't know. And can we trust that? How much of that has been changed or bent or whatever? And so this one, similarly, it just like, it makes you think about a lot. And the romance I thought was just so beautiful. Oh my God. It like makes your heart ache. Truly.
Very lyrical book, though. Very similar to Rachel Gillig. And, like, if you don't like those types of books, like, you are probably not going to want to read this. But if you do, like, this is a 5-star read for you.
Agreed. And it's pretty short for a romantasy book. Like, I think it was actually under 300 pages.
Yeah, it was
or maybe
really,
right at it.
Yeah, it was a quick read.
Yeah. So highly, highly, highly recommend. Beautiful book.
This is an amazing list to get everybody ready for the second half of the year. If you haven't added any of these to your TBR, just hit unfollow now, because these are the best recommendations you're getting on the internet.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
But I do have one final question for you. Do
Oh,
you
okay.
think that some of these books are going to remain 5-star by the end of the year, or do you think that there are some books that are gonna come out that are gonna boot them
Ooh.
down?
I don't think that the rating will change, but I think that like maybe my prioritization within these categories would change
Okay.
potentially.
Okay.
So we did our book awards last year at the end of the year, and it was very similar to what we were talking about here. But we'll see if any of these make the award show.
Yeah, come
I'll
back
be
in
very intrigued.
December to see what made it and what survived.
Oh, what's gonna reign supreme? I don't know. Next week we are talking about our audiobook, full audiobook guide.
Yes.
Where to start, what's gonna surprise you. If you are not an audiobook listener, why you absolutely should be and where you should start. All of the good stuff is gonna be in there because we are quite literally addicted to audiobooks.
And if you feel like after this episode you could still use some help building your July TBR, head to the link in our episode description to join our Patreon club because this month we are doing a live TBR girls' night where we are helping you build your TBR.
You won't want to miss it. It's going to be a lot of this. A lot of this and some more, let me tell you. Unfiltered, probably. All right. Well, we'll see you same time, same place. Grab your blankets, grab your book boyfriends, and we'll see you then.
See ya.